Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for watching. I do apologize if my voice sounds a bit off today. I have a cold. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I made my Hatchimal cake pops. I made a Birdle Hatchimal today, but you could really use this tutorial to make any of the Hatchimals. I'm using a egg mold and I will link the one that I bought below. And I've melted some white chocolate, and I do recommend using white chocolate instead of the candy melts just for the taste. So I'm going to spoon a little bit of my chocolate into each one of my cavities, and then I'm going to brush that chocolate up to the very top of each mold to make sure the whole thing's covered. And I'm going to flip that over onto some wax paper and tap out all of that excess chocolate. And then I'm going to flip it over again and clean up all the edges with my spatula. And then I'm going to flip it over one more time to let my chocolate set. While that's setting up, I'm going to start my cake pop dough, and to do that I've got some excess cake scraps that I've crumbled up, and I've got some buttercream. Mine's pink, but it's just because that's what I had on hand, so you can use anything you want. And I'm going to add a little bit of my buttercream into my crumbs and mix it up, and you know it's good when you can roll it in your hand and it stays, it doesn't crumble. But if it's too wet, you've added too much buttercream and you just add a little more cake, and if it starts to crumble, just keep adding buttercream until you have the right consistency. To form my Hatchimal, I'm rolling a small ball of my cake pop dough in my hands, and then I'm kind of making a peanut shape. So I'm just using my fingers to shape, like the bottom's gonna be a bit bigger than the top, and you want to have it rounded off. And I find that if you stick it in the fridge for a couple minutes after you've gotten the initial shape, then you can kind of fix it up if it looks a bit lumpy or rough, and then you can smooth out all of your edges and make sure it's nice and rounded so that when you dip it in your chocolate, it's not going to be super lumpy. So once I was happy with the shape, I just popped those in the fridge to set up. And then going back to my chocolate egg molds, I popped them in the freezer for about 10 minutes. And you know that they're ready because the chocolate kind of goes cloudy and it will shrink in the mold. So you really shouldn't have to do a lot to get them out. I'm just kind of pulling around the edges to release the sides. And then once you flip it upside down, just a little bit of pressure should pop these out. Hopefully you'll have done a better job of cleaning up the edges than I did when I initially poured my chocolate in. But you can just trim away any of like the jagged pieces on the chocolate edge with your X-Acto knife. So once my cake pops were all firmed up and ready to go, I melted down some light blue candy melts, and I just put them into the microwave for 30-second intervals. Be sure not to put them in too long because they burn really easily, and I'm mixing them really well in between because mixing really helps melt down the chocolate so you don't have to get it really hot and cause it to bloom. Once it's melted, I'm dipping my cake pop stick into the chocolate, and then I'm going to insert that into the bottom of my cake pop, and then I'm just going to rub away any of the excess and make sure it's smooth and it's not going to dry like with a big hard lump at the bottom of my cake pop. I'm going to let that set up in my cake pop stand for about 15 minutes, and then I'm going to dip my entire cake pop into my chocolate. And I've added a little bit of shortening just to help with the consistency of the chocolate so it's not so thick. And I'm just going to dip my whole cake pop in there and then just tap off the excess. It looks a little lumpy and rough at first, but after you tap off the excess, it will smooth out and you'll have a nice cute little cake pop. To decorate my cake pop, I'm using some marshmallow fondant. I'm not that proficient with chocolate, so I decided to forego trying to struggle through all of his features using chocolate, but if you feel like that's what you'd rather do, then you go right ahead. So I'm using my cutters, and I've rolled out some purple fondant for his tummy and his wings and his little beak. Next, I added some circles of green, and then black, and then little dots of white for his eyes, and then thin little snakes of purple fondant that I curled up for the little things at the top of his head. I'm not sure if those are ears or not. And then that's what he looked like just finished. So if you didn't want to add the egg on, you could just leave it at this. I think this is still super adorable. But just to make it a little more fun, I wanted to put him inside of an egg, since that's how Hatchimals come. So to get my egg ready, I've put 2 halves together, and then I heated up the end of my whisk. Just happened to be the right size. I heated it up and dried it off, and then I just ever so gently pressed that into the bottom of my egg to make a hole for my cake pop stick. And then to put everything together, I've sat my Hatchimal inside 1/2 of my egg, and then I heated up my metal bench scraper and dried it off, and just ran the other half of my egg over it to kind of melt the chocolate a bit, and then I pressed them together. And if you have any gaps, like I did, and of course I accidentally shot this off camera, I just used a little bit of extra white chocolate and ran it over the seam, and then just smoothed it out with my fingers to close it up. Once my egg had completely set up, I took some more of my blue and purple candy melts, and then just dipped, I just used a fork, but you can use whatever, toothpick. I just dipped it into the chocolate and then just added little dots all over the egg to make it look speckled. So this was the final result. I think these are really adorable and super fun for kids because you could put any one of the Hatchimals inside. I know there's a bunch of them. And you could either just have the Hatchimal like it is, or with the egg, and then the kids bite into it, and it's like a mystery Hatchimal, so just like the real thing, but you could eat it. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe for new videos every week.